The name of the album is The View from Here, and obviously you think of landscape, but there's a metaphor there because as an aging gentleman of 62, we talked about my albums, The Key, and other albums that have kind of an allegory or an archetypal journey in them. And The View from Here can be taken physically, or it can be taken more of a non-literal sense where you're talking about, this is where I'm at in my walk. This is where I am in my journey of life. This is where I am in my transition, from one thing to another. And this is what it looks like from here. If you don't see yourself differently at 62 than you did at 42, then you gotta ask yourself some hard questions.
Welcome to Titans of Transition, featuring real-life stories, anecdotes, and inspiration about pivotal career moments from leaders who have been there.
Hey, Michael Gettel, welcome back to Titans of Transition podcast.
Well, hey, Joe. It wasn't too long ago that we actually talked.
No, it wasn't.
In April.
Yeah, it was great. And I got wind that you were up to something special this week. You're up in Seattle. What are you doing up there?
Well, when we talked in April, I kind of hinted at the fact that I was getting ready to seriously consider jumping into the river again. We were talking about currents last time, and
right.
So thinking about jumping into that current of recording a new project, and it happened so fast in April, I can't even tell you. It was just quite an interesting process, one that I've never really experienced before.
So it came basically after we had a conversation, things accelerated at that point, or?
Absolutely, a great deal. I mean, I had my feelers out, and to two specific people that were very instrumental in kind of being the glue between all of the records, and that would include the recording studio that I've always recorded at, as well as my great friend and sound engineer, Frank Bree. And the stars aligned, and the owner of the studio said, you come back whenever you want, and we'll schedule you in whenever you can. And my friend Frank just said, I'll do whatever you want to do another record with you. So with that in mind, and not having an idea about how much it was going to cost or anything, I just trusted the fact that this really needed to happen for me, and at this point in my life. And so the process of actually composing the music literally took 3 weeks, in April and the first week of May. And I actually composed 11 songs.
Wow.
There's 12 songs on the record, but I composed 11 songs in about 3 weeks. And the biggest surprise for me was I actually wrote it all out in hand with pencil on manuscript paper. And that was the first time in 12 records I've ever actually written out complete piano parts. I've always written out lead sheets, but so that was, it was painstaking, but it was such a cathartic experience. And it was almost like a painter, studying a canvas and coming back to it day after day after day and saying, no, I don't like that color here. I'm gonna just adjust it a little bit. And so here I am, I'm looking at this manuscript that's like 6 pages long, and I'm like, I don't like that voicing over there. And so I'd go back and erase it and switch it out or do something different. And a lot of it just kind of came, and it just kind of created itself on paper as I was going. So that was a very, very gratifying experience.
I want to come back to that process a little bit, but it's been quite a while since your last project, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, my last project was a co-project with my wife Elizabeth, and it was called One Piano, and it was released in 2001. And so after that release, again, the music industry was in such turmoil, and it just didn't seem reasonable to take any more personal risks in terms of releasing music at that point, because everything was just kind of getting ignored, because record labels were realigning, and companies were chewing up other companies and cutting them in half. And so one thing led to another in years past. And I had other things to do, and being a teacher and
yeah.
a father and all of that. But just the relocation, if any of your listeners have listened to our first podcast, they understand that about 5 years ago, we relocated to a small town in Colorado. And that really kind of set my barometer, I suppose you could say, about a lot of things, and personally, and then just creatively. And so I can't believe that was August, and here I am on our very last day of mixdown. We're actually done, and my engineer right now is sending the waveforms to a master engineer in New York, and so I'll probably have mastered mixes in a couple of days.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting.
That's really exciting. It's interesting. Swinging back to the actual physicality of working with a pencil and doing,
right.
writing that manuscript out. That's very different. A lot of composers these days have shifted to Finale. I'm sure you've used it, So that
No.
Oh, you haven't actually. Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of people do, but I think, we always argue about how efficient it can be, and oh, I didn't like that key, I'm going to flip a switch and it's going to change the key or whatever. But I think there really is something when you engage your body in creation like that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that wasn't what this process was about at all. I mean, for me, it wasn't how fast can I kick out a commercial or kick out a soundtrack
Right.
for a TV show, or even a record. For me, it was, again, very cathartic to write it out, and it was a very Zen experience, and it just a super empowering experience to actually go back to that old school way of doing everything on paper, and having these incredible snapshots, these souvenirs, these manuscripts that are going to be my treasures for the rest of my life, and my kids and all of that. And
That's
it's
awesome.
it's a special part of the process for me this time.
I have to say that my wife saw you posted a picture of
I did.
a page on social media.
It was actually kind of a teaser, because I certainly know enough musicians and people who have played that they would get curious to say, oh my gosh, here's the first song on the record called The View from Here, and it's the first page. And so I had all these posts where people were saying, I'm trying to figure out what this sounds like. But, and so that was pretty amusing, but I definitely got some people's attention with that.
You definitely did. Both myself and my wife, I'm a guitar player, so I mean I can read a little bit of music,
I remember.
but I can't read. Barbara's a piano minor in college, and I went to my wife Barbara and I said, this looks a little crazy to me, and she goes, oh yeah. And of course it's just that's kind of one of your trademarks, I think, Michael. Did you have a lot of ideas and snippets kind of that over the years built up that you kind of had in your mental drawer?
Well, that's such an interesting observation. What a great question, because yes, what a landscape composer tends to do, probably much like a photographer would do, is they remember a certain kind of light shade or whatever, and they probably put that in a drawer somewhere, and they go back to that time or that space, and they wait for that light or whatever. And I'm very similar. I mean, I've done a lot of traveling in my life, and especially in the last 10 years. And when I see a really amazing tableau, I kind of check it into my head, and there's actually more than a few of those tableaus in this music. And just a couple to give you examples. There's three songs that are basically inspired by those kinds of experiences. And one is Stepping Stones Underwater, which in itself, as a title, is really kind of intriguing. It's like, well, what is this about? And what is that, what's the significance behind that title? And it's very simple. It's like I was traveling with a group of students from my former school, and we were traveling. We were backpacking actually through the Lake District, and it was about 2 years apart. And there's this beautiful, beautiful babbling river actually that you had to cross in order to walk up to the moors. And the first time, it was actually many times, but this particular time we were there are these, hand hewn stepping stones that go all the way across the river, and they must have been put there, who knows how long ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And so the first time was fine. 2 years later, another group comes, and it had been really rainy in the Lake District, and we got to the river, and the stepping stones were 8 inches underwater, making it impossible to pass. So we had to follow the river and walk down and cross a bridge and then go over that way, which was a little bit of a detour. But that's a really classic example, because the view from where I was standing, looking down at those stones and just watching the water move over them and realizing you could walk over these if you wanted to, but good luck, you're going to fall in. So the music is obviously, it's got a really nice meter to it, and it's kind of happy-go-lucky, and it's just a little pleasant surprise.
Oh, that's great. So is the theme, is it a collection, or is there a specific theme for the different landscape?
There is kind of, much like most of my albums, they are kind of concept records. And this one, again, like a lot of my other ones, kind of there's a double entendre a lot in either the titles of the songs or even the title of the record. And this album especially is about beautiful landscapes, inspirations from landscapes, and with the title of the album called "The View from Here." And I do have to digress for a second. The photography on the front is just absolutely stunning, including the inside cover of the CD. And it's so sad for me to say that my photographer friend, who took those photos, passed away of COVID 2 weeks ago. So I'm up here kind of remembering him and laying down all these mixes. And the sad part is he's not here to really fully appreciate the fact that there are going to be hopefully many, 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 many people looking at that cover going, "That is amazing." So, but the name of the album is "The View from Here," and obviously you think of landscape, but there's a metaphor there, because as an aging gentleman of 62, we talked about my albums, The Key, and other albums that have kind of an allegory or an archetypal journey in them. And The View from Here can be taken physically, or it can be taken more of a non-literal sense, where you're talking about, this is where I'm at in my walk. This is where I am in my journey of life. This is where I am in my transition, from one thing to another. And this is what it looks like from here. Maybe it's going to change in a little bit, or it's going to stay. This is the view I'm going to have. But I just love playing with titles and having people kind of be able to sort of embrace it however they are comfortable embracing it.
Yeah, I love the way you brought that in. It's kind of the sense of view from, maybe it's partially looking back, partially looking forward, but the idea of transition, sometimes we think it's only things that happen almost instantaneously, but some transitions happen quickly, but some,
like this.
There's a long arc on them. Yeah. And meandering. It's kind of like a trail, right?
Absolutely.
And it's zigzagging, it's up and down.
It's stepping stones underwater, and up the hill and down the hill, and finally up to the lake and the crag of the mountains. And that's what life is. It is. If you don't see yourself differently at 62 than you did at 42, then you gotta ask yourself some hard questions.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It really is a journey, and I think we're hard on ourselves sometimes. So, we want resolution, or we want some specific outcome, and we think too much about the kind of the arrival point, not enough about the journey and the process, right? So
yeah, and again, I guess from my perspective, from my view from here, this music is really about gratitude, and all of the songs are inspirational in a sense of how they were perceived, like you said, these little snapshots of either memories or visual kind of cues. But all of it in and of itself is, there's not one song on this record that you couldn't listen to and just take it to heart and feel gratitude for something that you've got. And whether it's the land, the sky, your life, your health, your personal well-being, any of it, it's there for you to find if you want to look for it in this music.
That's awesome. Let me pivot. I know you don't have that much time. You have to get back to the project, but let's dive into maybe a few musical kind of questions.
Sure.
Did you find when you went into this, I mean, you've reached, I'm going to say it, I know you're humble about this, but you've reached a certain level of mastery years ago. But did you find that as you were going in through this project, you were stretching yourself?
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh my goodness.
In what ways? Speak to the musicians for a few minutes, Michael, and talk about in what ways, and you can get specific because I want to connect with some of those friends and your students too, by the way.
Right, and I number one, if you stop learning at any point, that's where there's no more growth if you stop learning. So whether it's your craft, like my composing or my piano playing, or whether it's anything in your life, if you stop being open to being learned and you start creating a fixed mindset, you are never going to grow any past that moment. And that is one of the biggest lessons I could ever say to anyone. I would say that to a student. I would say that to anyone who would want any kind of advice from me. I would say always be a learner. So in that light, again, going back to the manuscripts, that's the first time I've ever done that. So that in itself stretched me. I thought, what am I doing? Because it took me, it really took me 8 hours probably every day for 2 weeks to physically capture what I was doing. And I just thought at any point during that process, I just thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this off. And then when I got done, I looked at everything I did and I said, I don't think I can play this. So that in itself is stretching me. And then, of course, I spent the next 6 months trying to play what I had written. And there's so many technical things that I have never taken those kinds of risks in a solo piano album to do. And so, gosh, I just the virtuosity that some of these pieces have, and how hard it is to really, I guess, express the highs and the lows, and just to be careful with your performances, really, really challenging. So,
wow, that's amazing. And you didn't back down from it either.
No.
I think I'll get the eraser out and take some of those notes out.
I was too committed. There was no way I was not going to make this happen.
That's great.
So, I mean, some of these takes, my poor engineer, he's like, okay, 43, take 43. So, but that didn't happen too often. But it's a real interesting experience to get back on a horse after 20 years. And
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you. Well, it really, really is, I think, magical, and it's an experience from beginning to end. Much like maybe some of my instrumental albums can be, listeners can feel that way, but this is very intimate, and I think they're going to come away with sort of the same reward as they would listening to a big Michael Gettel record. So
So it's solo piano. Are you
it's solo
putting
piano
anything else in the backgrounds or?
there are some a few surprises in the background and
Okay, all right,
a couple of third hands and that kind of thing. So
good, good.
yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So I want to respect your time on the project. I know you're right there. Is that the studio behind you, or is this
Yes,
another?
actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, pick up the camera. Go ahead.
I'm sitting in the main room, and I don't know if you can see
Yep, there's the piano.
the piano. This this studio is where most of the famous '90s Seattle bands have recorded. Nirvana, Soundgarden,
Oh, really?
Alice in Chains. Yeah, everybody. Macklemore. This is the
What's the name
place.
of the studio?
Robert Lang Studios,
Oh,
and
wow. And
it's I don't know what kind of a secret it is anywhere else, but on the West Coast, no one doesn't know about this studio.
oh, wow.
It's just extremely wonderful to be here.
Well, I want to thank you so much for letting us kind of dive in
Absolutely.
at the very
It's
kind
always
of.
fun to talk to you because you have such great questions and you just make it so effortless to have a conversation.
Oh,
So
thank
I
you.
appreciate it, Joe.
So, what's your rough timing? What do you think? When do you think this is gonna get out there, and how will people find it, and
Yeah,
all that
well,
kind of?
I think it's going to be pretty easy. Uh, I am working with a worldwide distributor on it, so
Okay.
we're going to release a single probably at the end of November, and then probably another single in January, and the full album, will probably drop the end of January, the first part of February.
So it is going to be a physical product as well,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. It'll be
Okay, just
digital, of
checking.
course, right? But the CDs will be out there on Amazon and that kind of thing. Or
Awesome.
listeners can always private message me, and I can arrange to send you my own copy. So,
Well, be careful there, buddy. You're going to get overwhelmed.
oh boy, yeah, I know. What? No, it'll be great.
All right. Well, and yeah, just a shout out to your students. They were so engaged on my first
Oh,
episode. They had
fabulous!
so
That's
many
awesome.
positive things to say. So I know they're going to be very anxious.
Yeah.
We'll try to reach out to
Well,
them.
I
And
do have to close with one quick thing, because you mentioned my students. I am over the last 5 years, I've actually met a kind of a protege of mine, who basically was born to my first record, and her parents have listened. The whole family's kids have been born to my music, and
that's awesome.
so they've been listening to all my albums since about probably 1990. And Kelsey has grown up wanting to play the piano, and I've been a pretty big influence in that a way. And so, talk about things coming full circle and mentoring people. She was my guest for 2 days, and she came in, and we have a duet on this album, and
Oh, sweet.
it was just one of those experiences that I'll always remember as a highlight of my recording life, because you're really passing the torch on to someone else to say, I bless what you're doing. I love your skill set, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do. And so it was such a warm experience. And mentors always have to mentor, and whether you're teaching in a classroom setting or anything like that, you can never underestimate the power you have for passing off something to a younger individual. And whether that's kindness, whether that's a skill, whether that's showing them anything that makes them feel more empowered and more accepting of who they are and what their goals should be for themselves, and how to be a good steward of their talents.
Oh
So
man, that's beautiful.
yeah, it's
And
really exciting.
it's brought these multiple threads of your life and your journey
Oh, for
together
sure. I know, right?
in this
Isn't that
last,
awesome?
I shouldn't say this, in this current project you're working on.
Yeah,
That's just that's
yeah,
wonderful. So
absolutely.
once again, I just want to thank you so much again,
Oh,
Michael, for
sure.
being on the podcast. I really
Absolutely.
enjoyed it. I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
But before you hang up, I just let people know that I will, of course, put information in the show notes. And if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to the channel, or this either on the YouTube channel or on the audio podcast. And Michael, hang on for a little bit. But okay, Michael, good luck. I'm sure this thing is just going to go wonderfully. I can't wait to listen to your new record.
It's really pretty.
All right. Well, we want to see that photography too, because I know how special your friend is. And please do send me any information on him too. I want to credit him. So
easily to do.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Titans of Transition. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please check the show notes for additional information. Also, please like and subscribe to this channel.